Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, dragi prijatelji, dame i gospodo, uvaženi gosti, kao domaćin, jedan od domaćina, jer sam ministar vanjskih poslova, u tom smislu sam domaćin zajedno sa Amerom, sa Bakirom i sa mnogim drugim ovde, ja ću vas pozdraviti na našem jeziku i sasvim prirodno, s obzirom na to da najveći broj ljudi su ovde naši ljudi, svi su ovde naši ljudi, ali najveći broj nas je Bosanaca i Hercegovaca ovde, imamo veliki broj naših prijatelja izvana, kojima je mnogo komotnije da govorimo na engleskom. A manje više svi koji su ovde, vidio sam, skoro se niko nije uhvatio za slušalce kad je bilo na engleskom, tako da nema razloga da ne završimo na ovaj način. My dear friends, of course, I want to thank first to everyone who's here. I want to thank to Amer Bukvić, in particular, for his enormous effort to make this conference being successful. By the way, what you are seeing now is you actually don't see because I finished 5 minutes ago, according to the program. And this is just imagination. And I have to do something, and my role is to conclude what you already concluded yourself. When Amer invited me to speak, he asked me, do I want to be in the beginning or in the end? I said, I would rather be on the end because it's much easier. I don't have to prepare my speech. Because in the end, my role was to wrap up everything and actually to be a reflection of what we heard today. Of course, I prepared my speech, just to be sure that I will be along my line of thought. But then in the end, of course, what I have in front of me is my prepared notes, and my notes, which are much richer than my private notes after being here from this morning's session all the way to the end. So I'll try just to show that the principle of new economy, networked economy, economy of third millennium, which resides on a very simple principle that no one is as smart as everyone, is really present in here. And I'll just to be a reflection of what I think that I learned from the lessons learned from the people who are credible, experienced, people who are friends of this country, besides the fact that there are people who are actually the people who live with this country, even when they are not in here. From business people to politicians to statesmen and people, bankers, and everyone that was in here. When I said to Amer that I will be on the end, he gave me a program. And according to that program, I was supposed to be here in 20 minutes. And I told him, Amer, something is wrong. I know us. We're never on time. So I simply do not want to compete in a competition which I don't believe in. And that's competing with pray time. So that's the reason why we were scheduled to finish 10 minutes ago, in order to really be on time for pray time. And that's the reason why I will conclude in proper time. Of course, whatever is wrapping up today's conference, it's not enough to say, because actually to wrap up something means that you are going to make the thing condensed, encapsulated. But we heard so many things today in those less than 3 hours actually, that wrapping up these 3 hours would require more than 33 hours. Because you just helped us to pick our brain and to think about the things. And to do the most important thing in business and government in your life, to think. To think and to think. And in government and business, the second rule of thinking first is get ego from the equation of thinking. And third premise is think always the known knowns. So what I'm trying to say is that the critical thinking, innovative thinking, it is very important for the future of the business. And that's what we heard today on these panels. We heard extraordinary statesmen with extraordinary experience who did the things for the first time in their environment. We heard people who were here who were unique with their own experience. And they were questioning the known knowns. They were questioning the stereotypes for those countries. From Prime Minister Mahathir to our dear friend and brother from Emirates, Minister of Finance, of course our dear friend and brother Ali Babajan, and our dear friend and neighbor, because everyone in EU is in few months becoming our neighbor, because in few months we will be neighboring EU, and we will have 28 neighbors out of blue without our wish and with our wish at the same time. But what I want to confirm is what I learned from the wiser people today. And I want to share my thoughts with you. What we heard from Turkish, Malaysian, Emirates, Slovenian experience. What we heard from distinguished people who were giving us extremely rich presentation about the nature of attracting foreign direct investors. What we heard about people who are showing us not 4 countries but 4 areas of priorities in business community, in the business of the country and the business of the region, is energy, infrastructure, agriculture, and tourism. And we all have to be thankful for you. And I think, Amer, this is great quartet that you made. You made 4 distinguished persons in here on your 4th conference. You gave us 4 fields that we should focus on as a government, as a government, as a business community, as all stakeholders in this country. Of course, not limiting to those 4 areas, but we have to focus at least a little bit. And I think this was a great idea. After 3 business forums in which we actually had more, I think, than 1,400 people participating in it with their projects. Most of those projects became alive. Most of those projects became our reality. Most of those projects are the projects that are already living the future in this country and a future for those investments. It is a great idea that the 4th forum, we actually listen to the people who can tell us something that we all have to learn. Us from a government, us from business community, us who love this country and who want to be learning from these lessons. This morning, we heard a lot of things what we should do. Maybe next time, we should talk a little bit more about what not to do. Because experience of what not to do is sometimes helping us as much as experience of what to do. But this is food for thought for the next time. What we heard and what I realized, that as Deputy Prime Minister Babajan said, he used the word confidence. Confidence and mutual trust. Confidence in each other. Business community, government have to have confidence in each other. And after the word confidence, what we have to learn in here is stability and rule of law. This is actually the mechanisms, the tools for creating confidence. And that what all politicians in this country, in this region, and in Europe as well. It's because we are also the victims and the victors of European Union. Because European Union can be victorious. And next year, when we commemorate 100 years of the beginning of World War I, Europe has to show that they learned the lessons in these 100 years. And Bosnia and Herzegovina is the perfect case in which they have to show that they learned the lessons and that Europe can be victorious, knowing that there were a lot of victims in this part of the world who actually survived those experiments. And what we heard from Prime Minister Mahathir and what we heard from our finance minister is from Emirates. Those 2 countries have something in common with us. They learned us in how being united in diversities. They learned us very precisely that the fundamental pillar of their development, economic development and social development, was actually political and cultural development in accepting that in diversities, if they are united, they are actually having this as their asset, not as their liability, which was left to them as a result of colonial rule. That's the lesson that we have to learn. And after all, Bosnia and Herzegovina is also, as a normal flourishing country, can be that only if we show that we can be united in diversities. And after all, region, and what we heard from President Izetbegovic, is that 0 problems with our neighbors is our policy. And 0 problems with our neighbors is something which we are getting to. If you have 0 problems with your neighbors, you can go to the next stage of the game, which is creating synergy with your neighbors. And what we witnessed last week, practically 2 days ago, Troika trilateral meeting in Istanbul, showed that Bosnia and Herzegovina, Turkey, and Serbia can be together in a lot of fields. Culture, education, economy, not only be political friends. And that's what means creating synergy in between 2 or 3 partners. And that's what is the role of government and all governments in our region. Since I'm coming from government, I have to learn some lessons for myself. United in differences is something which is not only a role model for Malaysia, for Emirates, not only for Bosnia, but one of the credos of the European Union is united in diversity. So if they want to be united in diversity, they cannot be united in diversity if part of the Europe, which is Bosnia and Herzegovina, is not united in diversities as well. The next thing I learned from this morning and this previous session is the role of vision. Those were all people with vision. People who are having vision about how to get there. In tourism, you have to have vision about what to do with your tourism. It's not enough just to thinking about how many square meters of hotels you will do. It's about vision, like some years ago, some decades ago, some people in here had the vision to make Sarajevo Olympic city. And when they see that dream, everyone was laughing at them. Everyone was laughing at them in former Yugoslavia, and especially even in the Olympic Committee of that time. But that vision actually made us to be different and be the country and part of former Yugoslavia who showed that we can be different and that we can do the really state of the art. We were competing 20 years ago almost in organized Olympics in Sarajevo and trying to look like the Summer Olympics in Los Angeles. And there was big competition. Who will organize Olympics better? Us in Sarajevo or them in LA? And we didn't lose. So that's the role of vision, and people, we heard it here, are telling us about that. Next thing I learned is long-term thinking. We in region, we us in Bosnia especially, we are long-term thinkers until tomorrow. Inshallah. We have to switch that. And we heard that people who survived and who made something were long-term thinkers. In Malaysia, in Emirates, and especially in Turkey. We all have to be not only impressed, but learn from the lessons. We heard Deputy Prime Minister Babajan, who was telling us about, he said it in one sentence. Can you imagine that humbleness, to send in one sentence, airport in Istanbul, the biggest one in the world, the tunnel that will be connecting the continents, the highway that will be as costly as 3 times Corridor 5C that we've been dreaming about. And talking about the channel that is not going to widen the Bosphorus. They will protect the Bosphorus for environmental reasons, but to build the channel. Those 4 projects on probably 4th conference of Sarajevo Business Forum. That's why he mentioned 4, because the list is probably much longer. And he mentioned those 4 projects, and all of those projects are the so precise, so good explanation of the long-term thinking. Those are projects for next generations. Those are not projects for next governments or next companies that will be created on those projects and behind those projects. So long-term thinking is something that we have to learn about. We heard also a very good point, and I want to share with you. We are talking too much about foreign direct investments because we need them, and we have to continue. But what we learned as a lesson in here is, yes, foreign direct investors. We have to be attractive for foreign direct investments. There are no doubts about it. But the best marketing, the best promoters of foreign direct investors are domestic investors who are investing in Bosnia and Herzegovina. That's something that we should never forget. The local domestic investors who are investing in their own country are the best promoters of foreign direct investors. And that's the reason what I learned, lessons I wanted to share with you this morning. Education. Education was the next thing that I put in my notes. Of course, I had it in my original notes without hearing, because that's where I came from, my academic background. But that's not only because, and that's the reason why I think that this forum is the right place to remember about education, because a few years ago, when this forum first time was launched, that Sarajevo was supposed to be educational hub. Educational hub in Ilidža, it did not look serious to a lot of people. But today, it shows that the visioning and encourage creative thinking is something that will definitely, when you plant that seed, is giving a result, because today Sarajevo is becoming international hub for education. Especially education, as one big friend of Bosnia and Herzegovina is using that expression, especially education in STEM field. Science, technology, and mathematics. Engineering and mathematics. That's what we have to focus a little bit more than, and that comes together with our competitive advantage. We have, among other things, two competitive advantages that we've heard, and we know. This is energy in Bosnia and Herzegovina, because we are the only country in the region that is exporting electricity, regardless of the fact that last electricity big power plant was made while Marshal Tito was alive. So we are still exporting electricity. And that's the reason why it is very important that our new investment plan, not only about infrastructure, but about energy, is we're expecting the big investment to open up in area of 800 million euros in energy sector, is in only one project, together with some other projects that are also calculated in hundreds of millions of euros. Energy, but not for exporting energy, but for actually attracting investors here, because they have in here electricity on much better competitive prices than in their own country, and combined with not cheap labor, but reasonably, call it cheap, high educated labor, skilled labor. And that what is the competitive advantage of Energo Invest, of companies like a lot of them are present in here. Competitively priced, high educated and skilled labor. That's what we heard today. Of course, I would very gladly talk to you a lot about what we are doing, what we will be doing, and I just am planning in communication with some of the people here. We in Ministry of Foreign Affairs are trying to be actually showing that we understand what is the role of government. The role of government is not to get out of business, like it was popular until financial crisis hit the world. Until 5 years ago, every forum, business forum, was saying the role of government is just get out of the business. Your business is to get out of business. Then after financial crisis, it shifted. But the role of government is not being in a business and doing business. The role of government is creating environment, and that's what we heard today from everyone in here, to focus on the private sector and have a government that is service to the private sector. Word civil servant, made in English, is that as a clerk, as an individual, you are serving to civilians. Government has to be civil servant, servant to the business community. And that's what is the role of government. But there is no proper business without the proper role of government helping business to flourish. And that's the reason why we have to focus on more on private sector, on small and medium-sized enterprises, and that's why we have to focus a lot on putting together projects that will open the path to the project we did not have so far because we did not have legal framework for it, which is private-public partnership. And private-public partnership with support of small and medium-sized enterprises or a private business is what we heard today that we have to work on, and we have to show that we learned the lessons. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been organizing business forums in 5 different countries, in Emirates, in Qatar, in India, in United Kingdom. We are very proud that President of the EBRD was opening our business forum, and when President of EBRD in London, in the financial center of the globe, is saying in our opening session that there is business opportunity to do in Bosnia business, that's something which I just want to repeat. I'll just give that quote. And I hope that that quote is also a credible quote for someone that it is worth doing business in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Why? Because of a lot of events that were happening, a lot of energy that is being around, and a lot of synergy of those energies. From forum like this, from banking sector, from business community, from our friends from the region and all over the world, from the friends who are asking us to be the gateway and to entry point in this region. When they say region, they don't mean Southeastern Europe, they mean Europe. So when someone from Emirates, who is actually a gateway to the globe, is coming and say you can be gateway to the region, it means that he knows what he's talking about, and we have to take it seriously. We have to show that we are ready to be gateway to the Europe. Not only be candidate for Europe, but be gateway to the Europe. And last point, out of the lessons which are giving me opportunity at this limited time in a competition that no one ever won and no smart people do, is I want to say that we will, based on the interaction that I had with some people in here, we will continue our activities as a Ministry of Foreign Affairs, as a Council of Ministers, but as a Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to be active in so-called economic and commercial diplomacy. What I agreed with some people in here, and I will ask some of my friends and colleagues and some of you to make one small pro bono group together with me as a Minister of Foreign Affairs in our sector for economic and commercial diplomacy and people who are in charge of it. We will form some kind of small think tank team that will consist out of the best people who want to share their experiences with us, to tell us what we are doing wrong, what we should be doing right, what should be changing. And we want to be that also project-oriented, not because ministry is the one that's supposed to be running the projects, but we want to take few projects, investment projects in here, to take them and to live with them, and to sharpen our administration through them, and to see what we can do better and what we should change in our administrative framework through the very live and concrete projects. So some kind of investment council, if we can call it that way, I will personally offer to some of people who are in here, some of people who are not in here, but who can benefit from it, and who we can benefit from. And we'll make one in our, let's say, logical department of economic diplomacy. I'll personally make some small pro bono investment council that will learn lessons from today and pass those lessons to the people who are decision makers. And of course, on the end, my dear friends, I really want to thank once again to everyone who participated in here. If you are sometimes confronted with the question, should you invest in Bosnia and Herzegovina? The answer on 5 different 5 W's. First W is why to invest in Bosnia. Well, the director of EBRD said very precisely, it's business opportunity. Who should invest in Bosnia? Everyone with creative idea, and especially the people who have ideas for the beginning in sectors that we outlined in here today. Where to invest in Bosnia and Herzegovina? Everywhere. We have one country. And there's business opportunities every part of this country. When to invest in Bosnia and Herzegovina? If you did not do it yesterday, then do it tomorrow, or at least wait Monday. But why? Because this is right time. Because when you look at figures of Slovenia, Croatia, Serbia, Macedonia, if you look at the IMF and the commercial banks projections in sense of growth of GDP and the parameters in 2011, estimates for 2012, and predictions for 2014, you will see that we are the best when it comes to GDP rate, growth rate, because only last year we actually had negative one, 0.6. Of course, economists are magicians because they call negative growth rate as a growth, but that's another thing. So we are the country that is getting out. We are not as fast and flourish as Turkey, but we are following our Turkish friends in sense of the path. So this is the time. And after who, why, who, where, and when, whom with? Well, with everyone who has ideas, who is ready to come in there, and who wants to share experience and to share the future. Future of the Europe, future united in diversity, just like future of Bosnia and Herzegovina and our countries. And someone left in here, time up, sorry. And that was left not for me, I mean that was for the people before me. So I see on my watch, I said to Amer, we have to be 10 minutes before Juma. I did it 12 minutes so we can slowly go there. And before we go there, I just want to remind you, I hope to see you tonight in this dinner in Hotel Europe at 7 o'clock, which I will be hosting together with Amer. And looking forward, thank you very much, looking forward for this evening, looking forward for the 5th forum that will be in 2014, inshallah, and with our help. Thank you very much.